So good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I have been to this session before a couple of times, so you may have met me earlier. I'll let Rajiv introduce me. I'm an alum. I'm batch of '96. I'm actually here teaching a course that I just finished about 1 hour ago, called Strategies for Revenue.
Will you be able to initiate?
Yeah, I can start. Yeah, why don't you introduce me and I'll start?
नहीं वो तो मैं करता हूँ, but do you want to talk about
The course?
the course?
Okay, I'm going to introduce करता हूँ and I'll describe it.
Yeah. Good evening and welcome all of you, and warm welcome to Gaurav. Gaurav is a batchmate, PGB 96, and also a classmate. So both of us now know each other for now almost 29 years.
30 years. Yeah.
30 years. Yeah. And I think you would have read it in the flyer, but if I were to give a brief introduction, I think he's president of the North America chapter, and apart from that, he's here to take a course at IMA, and also he's taking a course at Ashoka University. Apart from that, he is also a trained yoga teacher and a fantastic person. Over to Gaurav. And today, I think I also want to talk a little bit about the topic. I think what he's going to address is the literacies of the current era, what we need to survive in modern day jobs or modern day companies. So over to Gaurav.
And he's come for the second or third time for us.
This is what
Yeah,
my
he's
Hi.
with us for the
Which
third
is the
time.
course?
The course is Strategies for Revenue Leadership. It's a course where I teach enterprise selling to the students. So the PGPX program offered this course, and the point of this course is that a lot of our careers had to go through selling ideas to companies, products and services in banking, consulting, and so on. And we never got taught that. And so the challenge was, why are we not teaching students what they need to actually do well in their careers? And that's the reason I offered the course at the institute. And this was the first time I offered the course, and it's been well received. It's a very hands-on, practical course. This is my T-shirt from the course. So I try to teach things like, how when you basically, and it leads into the topic at hand. I feel that the skills that we are imparting our students need to change, because the needs of the current age and the future age are very different from the ages that we have grown up in. And one of those needs is the need to be able to connect with people and influence people, tell stories and influence them and create value together. And that, in other words, is selling. And we should teach that, because everything else computers will do. We don't do any heavy lifting right now because machines do heavy lifting. We will also not do heavy computation anymore because computers do that. And so if it's with all the AI that's been happening, clearly that the students that we are sending out into the world, if all they know was technical models and frameworks and stories of how things used to be 20 years ago, they're hopelessly unprepared for the world that they're entering. The world that we're entering, humans have to be more human, not less so. And which means that we now have to learn human skills. And sales is one such human skill, because we're always required to pitch our ideas, sell our thoughts and so on. I'm here pitching my ideas to you, and getting you to understand and agree and buy in is an important part of my success as a speaker. So the important thing to understand is that we are always adjusting to technology. Humans in general are a technological species, and I mean that in the sense that if you think of what we are, why we are a species that is somewhat as successful as we are, there is biology, there is technology, and there's culture. And humans are a product of all three of these. Why is that the case? If you look at us, we are not purely a biological species. Why? Because any wild animal, if they have their young child, they'll be able to survive on their own after a day or two of being born, because they can survive. Human children are completely self-helpless for a long period of time. Why is that? We are actually a weaker species. If you look at chimpanzees and other primates, we are not as strong as them. We are not as quick as them, and yet we are successful. We are successful because we have started to use technology. We are smarter than them, but we are smarter. Why? We are smarter because they spend a lot of their energy in chewing all the fruits and meat that they're eating, and then digesting it. Digestion takes a lot of their energy. About 2 million years ago, whatever the ape species was after the Australopithecus, they started to harness fire. And through fire, they started to harness the ability to cook food, which allowed them to soften and pre-digest the food, which means the stomach no longer needs to spend that much energy in digesting. That energy saved was deployed to growing the brain. So we now use 20% more glucose than any other species simply because we're not spending that energy in digesting. And so all that time and energy that was going in digesting has now been converted to the brain, but it requires us to cook food. And so in that sense, we are a mix of technology because fire is technology, wheel is technology, language is technology, being able to communicate is technology. And so we are not purely a biological species, and the technologies that we work with shape us as a species. But technology by itself is not enough. You can take the tools and go back in time and give it to humans from 200,000 years ago. They will look anatomically just like us, modern humans, but they will not be able to survive or handle all the internet that you have because they haven't been trained on it. And that part is culture. The language that we have, the fact that I am saying something with my mouth and you're hearing it and understanding it requires us to have a cultural exchange. The words, we have already negotiated the meaning of those words as we are talking, all those ideas that we're talking. So culture, technology and biology are a three-part mix of what makes us human beings. And now the challenge that we have is that biology moves at a very slow pace. In our lifetime, we don't really evolve. There might be some gene expression, but generally speaking, we will not evolve. In 40,000 years, once there might be some sort of gene mutation and we might have a new species, maybe a several 100,000 or millions of years. Biology is slow moving. Culture is somewhat faster moving. But technology has now become very fast moving. There have been long periods of time when technology was slow moving. Generation after generation, same technology, manual tool. If you look at the Stone Age lasted anywhere from 1.5 billion years ago to about 20,000 years ago. So a long period of time, the entire technology that we had was how to hit the stones in a way that they make a sharp knife and then we can use it as a knife, right? Technology did not evolve that much at that time. But now what we're having is a period of hyper evolution, very fast, very quick evolution. Now, obviously, our biology cannot evolve. Our technology is evolving fast. What is our response? The response has to be a cultural response. We need to be able to handle all the technology and it will shape our culture. And this has been true, if I showed you the presentation, this has been true always for humanity. So the images that I wanted to show you was that French cave in Lascaux, right, where there are the cave paintings. And in the cave painting, they are working together and hunting animals. Right? And that's technology. The ability to create tools, work together is technology. And so we have always found ways to create and handle all this new technology and transmit it to our future generations using culture. Right? So if you look at what's happening near Delhi, for example, there's this iron pillar. And we still don't know the metallurgy of that because that culture has been lost. The technology exists, there is a pillar there, it doesn't rust in the rain, but we don't know the metallurgical way of creating that because that culture has been lost. And so the first point I'd like to make is that all the technological changes that are happening, always, it leads to a change in the culture. And there is always a cultural response. That's the first thing I'd like to make.
Sorry,
Yes.
just in case we otherwise will keep trying, so it's not going to happen because I just got a call. So generally as a protocol, alumni office send a mail to AV office.
Oh, they forgot to.
So they forgot to send that. So there is no one. Everybody left by 6 o'clock.
No worries. It's all good. Okay. So that's the first thing I'd like to establish is that we are a mix of biology, culture, and technology. And as we're looking at all the changes in technology, we must respond to it by understanding what we should become as a culture, what changes it will bring about. That's the first thing. The second is that we are now entering a new age. We heard about the industrial age, we heard about the information age, and now we're hearing about the intelligence age. And this is also because of new technology, all the AI that has been created. Now, within the next 5, 10, 20 years, we will be very clearly in the age of intelligence where technology will be able to do things better than humans can. Already that is the case. You no longer take directions from the panwala. Google tells you how to go. That's AI implemented in your phone. Now we talk to people across the world and we're using a lot of AI to transcribe it. Right? So intelligence will be embedded into all parts of our life, all facets of our life. And now that will mean that we will have to leave things and stop doing them the way we were doing them in the past and find new ways of doing things. And now I'd like to tell you, so the second point I'd like to make is that we have now entered the edge of the age of intelligence. This might seem like hype, but it is not hype. It is real. I use the AI, and I say this to the students graduating here all the time, that what you can do for the next 5 years, I can do in the next 2 seconds. Because I'm going to ask you to read reports, I can read reports. I'm going to ask you to summarize things, I'll summarize things. You're going to create documents, I'll create documents. I can do any of that using AI today. And as AI gets better and as automation gets better and into everything in life, we're going to have to learn to become different. And now, just the way we did with the industrial age, where we no longer make things by hand, we no longer walk to our work, we are going to have to leave that and learn to leave a few other things that we used to be good at to computers, to technology, and become good at other things. It's not that we will become useless, we'll just have to be interestingly useful in some other ways. And that is the topic for today's conversation, which is new literacies in the age of intelligence. So I've established hopefully the idea of the age of intelligence. It is different from the age of information, and it will be qualitatively different in terms of the culture it creates. Now I'd like to tell you that this is a question that I've had to think about for a long time. In 2017, my engineering college alumni had asked me to give a talk because at that time I was running an AI startup and I'm a yogi and I teach meditation. As some of you who did my last class today, right? So I teach meditation. So they said, you're a strange guy. On the one side you're saying, oh, don't do any work, please meditate. On the other side you're saying, don't do any work, I'll automate. So what are humans going to do? And so I gave this talk. They liked the talk. I gave 20 such talks. We liked all of those. We made a book and we published the book with Oxford University Press in 2022 called Global Business in the Age of Destruction and Distraction. Because this transitional age that we're in, this definition of Kali Yuga is the age of destruction, where everything that we knew, everything that we thought was confirmed is being destroyed and remade. What is a bank? It used to be a bank, now a bank is a technology company. What is a hospital? Now a technology company. Everything is changing. Everything is being destroyed. What is a society? What is a country? You're more interested in my country's president than I am in any other country's president. Why is that? Because everything has changed. We are no longer just interested in the things that they used to be. So and then distraction is that trillions of dollars of market capitalization is spent in keeping us distracted and outraged, right? Your phone tells you what videos to watch. Your phone sends you messages on what to get angry about. Suddenly we realize that we're all angry about a thing that we didn't even know about 2 days ago. That did not exist in our consciousness, but now we are very angry that this thing is happening and how dare they do this and so on. Why? Because the technology that is designed to outrage us is working really well. And distraction, this is the age of distraction. And it will continue to be the age of distraction because technology knows more about us than we know about ourselves. How to keep us outraged, how to keep us distracted, how to keep us disengaged. And so what it's creating is a society that is deeply unhappy. People are unhappy with themselves, they're happy with their families, they're unhappy with their work, they're unhappy with everything that's going on. And this is all a result of the age of distraction that we're in. And we have to learn to take back our attention and so on. So now, the question is, what are the things, in the industrial age, I wanted to say, when they say industrial age, you need to be literate, they said there is a 3 R's of literacy, right? They used to say the 3 R's. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Those used to be the literacy. You consider literate if you could read, write, and do mathematics, right? Industrial age, that was enough. Now what is the problem with those 3 R's? The problem with those 3 R's are that we are actually worse than AI in all of those 3 R's. We are worse at reading. We can only read at a certain pace. It can read immediately. We are worse at writing. We will take a long time to think and write. It will write immediately. We are worse at mathematics because it can solve problems that at PhD level that we cannot solve. So now that definition of literacy is no longer enough because clearly it's not enough. We need to be literate in other things. It's not as if we don't need to learn to read, write, and do mathematics, but now we need to know other things. The question is, what are those other things? And that is a central topic for this talk that I want to give, that those other things are more human things. Why? Because now machines are doing machine things, computers are doing computer things, we must do human things. If we are doing what computers are doing, but worse, reading, writing, and arithmetic, then what is the point of hiring people? Which is what you're hearing in the press all these days, that why should I hire 50 more MBAs if I can hire 5 people can do that can work with AI? And they're not wrong. This will only continue. Right? We're going to hire people to do human things. And the question therefore is, what is the new literacy that we must have? And so now I'll just write on the board, class teacher style, because otherwise I don't have a present. There are 4 S's. So I will write these out. Now let me explain. All of these are ways of connecting. Because our intelligence now is in connecting. The first connection is connecting people to people. Now if you see people today, what are they doing? We're all connecting with our phone, right? We have lost the art of connecting with each other. We have lost the art of conversation. We've lost the art of engaging, empathy, and speaking clearly, connecting heart to heart. We're going to have to learn to connect with people. Because machines cannot talk to people the way people can talk to people. But we have forgotten that art. We must learn it again. The second is spiritual. Spiritual not just in a religious sense, but connecting people to purpose and meaning. If you hear about burnout, why is there burnout? It's not only that they're working Narayan Murthy hours or SN Subramania hours, right? It's not just that. It is that we don't find meaning in our work. No longer giving us joy. Energy nahi aa rahi hai, maza nahi aa raha hai, right? There is no resilience. Students that are graduating now, we say, that's what people say, if you scold them twice, they'll collapse, they'll take a mental health day. They don't have the resilience anymore. That is spiritual energy. The ability to find meaning and purpose and energy is a very important skill that we need to have. But what other tools do we have those available? The third is sales. Sales is connecting to value. Not sales as in just selling a pen or whatever. Sales as in connecting to value. What do people want? What do people value? Connecting to that and creating that. Creating marketplaces, but also creating conversations, storytelling, influencing. All of those are sales skills that we must learn. And we are never taught. In fact, the reason, that's what I began, the reason I'm teaching a course here is that it's not taught. But it is one of the most important skills, and in fact, it will become even more important in the future because that's what we need to have as humans. Right? The fourth is software. Software not as in programming skills, but connecting with people with technology. Having an attitude of symbiosis with technology. Like with our phones, now we are one with our phone. We feel if we lost our phone, it's like someone cut off our arm. Right? We have become one with our phone. Having that sort of fluency with technology is important because technology is everywhere. If we avoid it, then we essentially fail to learn things that make us more productive, more successful, and so on. Right? So those are the new literacies in the age of intelligence, and that's my main claim that I'm going to talk about. So this is people to people. This is people to purpose. This is people to value. And this is people to technology. Those are all the new literacies. And if you think about the curricula that we have for our students and ourselves, we will find that most of these things are not covered at all. We teach book theory. We don't teach people to talk to people. Right? We don't teach spirituality at all. We don't teach resilience and meaning and purpose. We don't teach discipline. Why? Because we think that IQ is enough. But what's happened now is that game has changed completely. IQ is not only not enough, in fact it is decidedly not enough, because I have better machines than I have people. My computers have more IQ than my people will ever have. And that will only get worse with time. I can hire 10 computers without actually breaking a sweat. Right? So I have as much intelligence on tap as I want. Value. We don't know what people value. We are afraid of teaching sales because people are afraid of doing it. 70% of us, what is your job, Rash? You're selling? These are the things that we have to do. We have to talk to people and convince them of our ideas. Right? What do people like? We have to have a sense of empathy. What does this guy want? Can I give this person what he wants, and in return he takes what I have, and now we have an exchange. We have made a market. Right? We're not taught that. Same with software. We are taught coding, but we are not taught how to integrate technology in a way that's controlled, and and we are the masters of that. And gulami हमने सीख लिया, हमने राज नहीं सीखा है टेक्नोलॉजी के ऊपर. So those are the new literacies. And if you had the slide where I'd show you, I have a sort of 5-stage framework that goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for each of these parameters. Where I'd like to propose, this is a model I've been building, is that individuals and companies have to think about all of these competencies. And you will see that companies might spend a lot of energy in software training. You will see that companies are saying, AI training karenge, technology training karenge. But what they miss out is all the other competencies. What do I need to do? So I wanted to give you a few examples of how when the age changes, the need for skills changes completely. So I'll give you a few examples. So if you think about medieval period is when things were small scale, rural handicraft type of situation, because machinery and energy were not available at scale. You might have some water pump energy, but not too much energy. And so now the move from that age, in that age, the community was very tightly knit. I'm describing social literacy now. Community was tightly knit. You worked in your village, you knew everyone in the village, and your community was your village. The social hierarchy was all set. You are from a particular community, you are so much wealthy, therefore you have so much respect in the community. Communication was all face to face, right? And then where we got together were public places. There were enough public places in our towns and villages. There'd be the temple, there'd be the meeting place, there'd be the town hall or the big fort, and so on, meeting places. When the industrial age came, what happened with that was that instead of living in a familiar village, we now have to go to a city. And we are now anonymous. In a village, everyone knew us. In a city, no one knows us. Now we're anonymous. We're working in urban centers. We don't really have family over there. And so no one knows us. So now our community structure is just the people we meet. Where do we meet them? We meet them at bars, and we meet them at clubs, we meet them at offices. We don't really meet them in other social strata. Social hierarchy, who knows what the social hierarchy is? You could be whoever you want, right? Communication now dependent on literacy. So when in the in the European side, when the church reformation happened, Martin Luther came around. How did he become successful? He wrote a 93-point bullet point thing, and he hammered it into a church wall. And that writing, the ability to write and communicate and influence people, was the primary means of influencing people now. Writing. That became more important. So social literacy changed because the industrial age required a change in social literacy. It required us now to learn how to make our place in a completely unfamiliar place, to make friends and to find some sort of connection in new places. Even all of us. We're not from Ahmedabad. I'm not from Ahmedabad. He's not from Ahmedabad. You have to learn to find some community and make do. Not the same as when it used to be where everyone knew you and everyone helped you or not. But now it's very different. Now you're a stranger to your neighbor. All of that is a result of the industrial age. Now on spiritual literacy, how the world works, how it came to be, cosmology, all of that was told to us by our forefathers. Everything was all set, nothing changed, there was nothing. You read the Ved Puran, everything is fine. When the industrial age came around, now we're taught rational thinking, science, scientific thinking process. So now we don't know what to believe. In fact, we specifically know how to doubt. We don't know how to believe. All of that is a result of the industrial age. So time perception, it used to be cyclical. Rig Veda, our first poetry in India was about rhythm, the sense of rhythm in order in the universe, because everything was cyclical. There is rains in this season, there is cold, then there is summer, then there's before that is spring, then rains again. Everything was cyclical. So our understanding of time was cyclical. Now everything is timeless. Industrial age, there is no time. Everything is available all the time. So there's no cycles of any types. And so our sense of how the world works is very different. So spiritually, we are confused. We are no longer certain of our place in the world because we don't know what the world is about. Time is also something that we're not sure of. And energy management. We used to sleep at night, wake up in the morning and get to work. So we were very well coordinated with the energy cycle of the universe, of the sun. Now, we sleep at 2 o'clock, we wake up at 11 o'clock, and that's what we call life. And now we're out of sync. So we now have to find, in the industrial age, new ways to find spiritual calmness, center, meaning and purpose. Similarly with sales. So you're getting the idea that when the age changes, all these skills have to be redone. Everything that we know for sure needs to be redone. Every form of teaching that culturally to our children needs to be redone, because everything that used to work no longer works. And with value, it's the same. With sales, now we teach solution selling. This is what we teach right now. But later, it's going to be something else, because that's how the world is changing. And finally, with software as well. So you get the broad gist that the literacy that used to be good enough for us is no longer good enough for us. We have entered a world where we have people that have poor social skills. You can already see that with ourselves, my own generation, right? We don't know how to connect to each other. There was a death at one of the colleges I taught at, and there is there's no person who'd come to you and just talk. You don't know the students who died, but you know that there's a death in the community and you're shaken by it. And so 3 days have elapsed and people are completely lost. Here also it happened, right? But in other societies, previously we knew how to handle this. You could talk to someone about it. People knew how to process their grief. But now we are not aware of that. We have forgotten that art. We must learn it again. And that's social skills.
Yes. I have a question here. So I find this very strange. I think we have a lot of other senior people as well, but in our times we have never heard about something like, you can say this depression or somebody counseling, whereas I find it as a norm. It has become like a norm.
Therapy and counseling. It has become a norm because I have a whole. No, thank God. Okay. So,
what do you think is the root cause of that?
All right.
Because I'm not able to figure out. In our kids, we never brought them in a way that it should happen the way it is happening. But I guess it's just happening.
Yeah. If I take you, can we move this up? Is that possible? I can just write about it. But we can't even. Either. Okay. If I take you from this planet and we go to Mars, and it's okay, don't worry. If we go to Mars,
One of the switches.
इजाज़त करें ऊपर? ये कम कर नहीं नहीं इसे को put करना but it's okay.
Any switch here, right? Okay. There is some switch which takes it down. Yeah, this is the, you put the table down.
Oh no, this is for this. I'm just trying to see. Okay, never mind. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Okay, I'll explain. So anyway, so why this is happening is the. Hold on. No, then don't worry about it. It's okay. I'll sketch over there. No
This
worries.
side?
I'll write here. It's okay. Huh. I think this thing might be doing something, but don't know what's going on.
This is actually for pen drive.
Oh, there's something.
वहाँ पर एक up down button है.
No, that is for the table. That's moving the table down, so that doesn't happen. Okay. Anyway, so what's happening is, if we were to go to Mars, Elon Musk is successful and we are sending people to Mars, what are we going to find? We're going to find, interestingly, that not all is Mangal on the surface of Mars. Why? Because daily the temperature goes up and down 60 degrees Celsius. So even if you had air, some breathing,
What time is it? 60.
day, every day, morning to evening.
Morning to
Yeah.
evening, like
The
volatility.
range every day, the volatility is 60 degrees. So it's a very harsh climate. Even if you had air breathing apparatus, it's very harsh. It's very unlivable. On Earth, we live in a very narrow band. Even though there's hot and cold, we live in a narrow band, right? And the difference is having an atmosphere. Mars does not have a very thick atmosphere, so it doesn't have any buffering of the thing. The problem that we find ourselves is that our atmospheric cover is evaporating. And one of my big theses in life is that societies function. And this I go to Karnaparv. So Krishna is giving a talk to Arjun, and he says, Dharyati dharma, right? That which holds the society together. A society's job is to provide emotional air conditioning. ज़्यादा खुश है आपने पार्टी दे दी, खुशी बांट दी. ज़्यादा दुखी है 10 लोग आ गए आपसे बात करने के लिए, दुख बांट लिया, right? You're able to talk to people, and so you're able to regulate your inner state. अभी क्या you can't regulate because अपनी खुशी भी अपने पास है, 4 लोगों को बताओगे तो उसको जलन होगी, you will not tell anyone, right? और अपना दुख है तो और लोगों को बताओगे तो लोग जज करेंगे, तो आपने दुख भी नहीं बांटा. And now what's happening is we have Mangal ho gaya, so we are now living on this Mars where within a day we're extremely happy, extremely sad all day, and that is one problem. The other is because of all the technology. If you see from 2007 onwards in depression amongst young people, there's a stark decline from 2007 onwards. The big thing is iPhone was launched. Because of our addiction to our phones, our source of connection is now this guy over here. And so because I'll ask you a very simple question. I asked the kids as well, how are you doing?
Doing good.
There you go. He said doing good. How much time? How are you doing? Yeah, everyone is doing good and fine. Now the question is, did you think about this? No. It's a default knee-jerk reaction. You hit this and it will kill, right? It's a knee-jerk reaction. That's the problem. We don't know how we're feeling until we read about it on the internet. Because something tells us how to feel. We have lost touch with our own sense of
But
sensation.
if it is phone, if I may ask, that's the case with most of us, right? We've also got hooked on the phone.
Yes.
But
We're not depressed.
younger generation, why
Younger generation has never built any resilience in themselves. We have been through a longer life. We have friends we can talk to. We also have perspective. We also have lot less life. Younger people have lesser friends, lesser connection to themselves, lesser sense of what feels good. If you say, ये करने में अच्छा लगता है. If I go on a walk, I feel good. If I sing, I feel good. But if I cook food, I feel good. You might be doing things that make you feel good. Yes, ma'am.
I have an observation.
Yes.
Everything is centered around food
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
With this generation, everything is food centered.
Huh. I think that's because of Instagram and food
Instagram.
photos.
Correct.
Whatever it is, everything is
And,
food centric.
Yeah,
Photogenic होना
it
चाहिए.
is more
Food
about
centric.
Insta than food.
Food centric and phone centric. Both.
Yeah. Projecting your current status basically.
That's
Yeah.
okay. But these two things are.
And that is the problem.
What difference do you find, let's say, in the kids who are, let's say, at IMA versus our time, or
I think that, how do I say this? we grew up in a poor country, right? So we had no hopes, no aspirations. We were just trying to survive. These kids have seen good times, but anticipate that they are entering not so good times. So they're even more stressed out, right? And I feel that you can feel that stress. They're very job and career oriented. And so I came and gave a whole course on life skills and so on, right? So now they have never been talked to about that. I feel that's one of the problems.
They never be.
Talked to about that. Life में क्या perspective होना चाहिए, right? What is important in life? No one talks to them about it. They think that money, wealth, power, fame, likes and prestige, all of that is the only thing that matters. But I had speakers come day after day, right? And we were saying, look, purpose is important. Ye kiya, I failed at this, it was fine, I did something else. This is what I get joy from. And so you get to learn new perspectives. They don't get that perspective. That's one thing that I see. I also teach undergrad kids, right? I find they're hungrier. They want to do something because उन्हें सबने वो internet unicorn का story सुना है, so they want to do startups. But I don't think they're mentally ready because startups, you run businesses, right? It takes long periods of not being successful. You have to be willing to live with the shame of being the worst performing person in your class, right? It takes a certain amount of spiritual courage, energy to do that. But immediate overnight success थोड़ी होता है कोई. So now, how are you learning that? They're not learning that. They're only seeing success stories. They haven't seen that, and I think that's part of the challenge, which is I think the last 30 years have been good in India, and because of that, the kids that have come out have only seen great things, have not seen tough times. We had seen enough times when we were at campus. India was already a poor country, and we were all very middle class kids. So our hopes and dreams were very middle class hopes and dreams.
They have more options available, but they don't know how to choose.
No, they have more choices, but,
Choices,
they have no way of making choices. That's the problem.
That's
Yeah.
that confusion.
I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense. They've seen the good times from the beginning. That is
They've never seen bad times, and so now they don't have any resilience. Every 5 years there'll be something random going on. We've seen riots. I grew up in Delhi. We've seen riots. We've seen all manner of idiotic things going on. Right? Is this bad? Yes.
Has there been a change in the role of the parents?
I think parents have also, frankly, I was going to come to that part. I think we have failed as parents in general. We haven't, I think our parents did not give us much culture, is what I feel. So we do not have much culture to give our children. So we have raised children that are completely removed from the cultural context in which we find ourselves. So a lot of the Anglophone kids, for example, in India, have no sense of our culture, have no sense of pride or just history. And that's terrible because if you don't have a good sense of history, you can't really go far. Right? Yes, sir.
See, whatever you've been talking making sense because all of us have experienced similar kind of behavioral changes in kids. But I think my parents are also similar kind of dilemma with me.
Yeah.
So they could not do anything to me. Will I be able to do anything with my kids as well?
Yeah, because
Apart from doing discussions in a forum like this.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think it's 3 or 4 generations of being through this hunger cycle. We were poor country people, so we had to work, we had to make money because otherwise there's no recourse. कोई backstop नहीं है हमारे पास. And so our parents were working hard just to put food on the table, as they say. We worked hard, and now we're affluent. Our kids don't think that they need to work hard. So it's weird, right? The opposite thing has happened. I think that's part of the challenge here. I think that one, they don't have a sense of values, they don't have a sense of grounding, they also don't have a sense of self. And parents are to blame because we haven't taught them. I'll give you an example. I do office hours at Ashoka, when I teach at Ashoka. Here, I can't do office hours because the students are all busy. Office hours is basically, the professor said, this time to this time I'm available, come see me. 15 minutes. And this is not to boast. I do 2 hours of office hours every time I'm there on campus, right? 8 students I can meet. It takes 1 minute to fill all the 8 slots. There are typically 12 to 15 students trying to get in 1 minute, in the first minute. And then it's over. Why? it isn't that they're coming to talk to me about the grades. They're great because they know better than that. Because I'm not going to give them grades because they'll come to talk to me, right? They come to talk to me because I talk about all manner of things: philosophy, life, purpose, mission. It's a sort of conversation they needed to have with their parents, right? But they don't have that conversation with their parents, so they see me as a father figure, and so they seek me out, or they meet me at dinners. I do a 12-hour day when I'm at Ashoka, from 12 in the afternoon to 11:30 in the night. I'm just with students, and even at 11:30, I have to go because my cab guy wants to go. Right? Students will not want to leave, and that's because they have a craving for this sort of connection. Even right after this, my students at SRM, how many times do students go out with professors for dinner? They said, "Nahi, hum dinner jayenge," because they want to connect, they want to talk. They need someone to talk to about these questions. And usually what happens is, because we were not trained as parents to talk about these things, we were prescriptive. ऐसे होता है हमारे यहाँ. This is what we do. The problem with that is they're not willing to take that as an answer. They want to know logically, why should we do this? Why is this important? How does this work? Why is this better than the other thing? They want to be talked to like grown-ups by grown-ups. And I don't think we have learned that fine art of social conversation with our own children. And that's what, when I talk to students, that's where I feel that there's a demand for that sort of. Harish, you would agree, right? Definitely, there's a hunger for that sort of thing. The kids are very smart, but they're very fragile. If you see, we've talked about this in our MBA, in our batch as well. When we hire young kids, they're very fragile. हमारे को तो एक बार डांटो, दो बार डांटो, like ढीठ है, right? These children, you scold them once, then mental health day, next day, they are done because they can't handle the feedback. Right? Because we haven't taught them resilience. We haven't taught them purpose. We haven't told them the stories. Right? We've only given them a very technical, mathematical education, which is completely useless in this new age. I think that's the big challenge that we have as a civilization and as a country even. Because if you see employability, right? Already if you look at engineering colleges, what is the percentage? Like a very small double-digit percentage is considered employable. And that's only considered technical skills. If you now consider all these skills, you'll realize why schools like Ashoka are doing well, why new colleges like Ahmedabad University are starting, because we realize the limits of our technical education. Right? Values education. How are kids going to get values education? And what we realized, and this is the guys who started Plaksha University told me, they're all IIT Delhi alums. And they said they started Plaksha as an engineering college. They realized engineers are good for 5-7 years. This is what he told me. He says 5-7 years they do really well. After that, when they start hitting middle management, they begin to collapse. They don't know how to be good middle managers. They don't know how to handle people. They don't know how to be good leaders. Right? Because हमने उनको perspective ही नहीं दिया है. We haven't given them any sense of values, any sense of history, any sense of purpose, meaning, none of that. And that they're practically illiterate. They're technically competent, but practically illiterate. And that's the challenge that we have in this country, that the future leaders, I was talking to Pankaj Chandra, right? And that's what he was saying, the future leaders are going to be people that are not trained for that sort of work. How do you teach people values, civic values, social values? Everyone for themselves. And that's the challenge, that's the literacy problem that we have, that when AI becomes really smart, eventually there'll be a lot of wealth with with a very few people. Right? Rest of the people will be Zomato delivery type work, last mile work. Right? They have no upside, but they see all the wealth. Lot of social unrest that will come out of it.
That's happening irrespective.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it is because of AI, but even in India you'll find that the disparity in wealth is.
And they do not see a path to.
It will grow.
And they do not see a path to your level of, or the high level of wealth. There's no path to it. Right? It's a permanent state. Because you can't become a very affluent delivery person. You're just going to make a minimum amount of money. And you don't get better at your job. You don't get paid more at your job. So what do you do? And so that's, I think, the literacy challenge in general of the world that we've entered, that we are hopelessly unprepared for the world that we are about to enter. We're already poorly prepared for the world we're in. But when we get to the future within the next 5-10 years, you will see that people have poor perspective, and they will begin to be in the workforce, they'll begin to be in the leadership roles, they'll be completely unprepared for it. No sense of social values, no sense of how to connect with people, empathy क्या चीज़ होती है, अगले क्या सोच रहा है उसके बारे में सोचना, how to tell good stories so that people understand. कौन सिखा रहा है ये सब?
I think Neeraj and education, you thought, isn't the colleges aren't taking note of this and really.
You can ask sir. You tell me what colleges are taking note of this.
Colleges cannot any longer take note of this because it is dictated by UGC.
Exactly.
So,
If you
and finally, your son Charlie coming up saying something like Indian politics system,
Yeah.
which whether it is there or not, the guy who spoke about it had no idea.
He also does not know.
He had no idea.
It's dictated. Our education policy is dictated and thrust down the throats by bureaucrats who are not teaching experts.
That's what I was discussing with Abhinavji last time. We will have seen that good small clip what Chinese students are taught at school.
Oh, cleaning up, right? The Japanese and the Chinese schools, yeah.
But in fact, we do it at our school. I am also running a school.
Yeah.
He is also there. अमिताभ जी तो बोले कि हम अगर हम
हमारे बच्चे से सफाई करा रहे हो।
डीओ वाले हमें पकड़ लेंगे
हाँ, हमारे बच्चे से सफाई।
they will just fire you like anything. So the whole system has been just to create
They compare Chinese and English
Chinese-
kids.
नहीं वो बच्चा क्लास के बाद दे क्लीन अप एंड
कचरा पोता आपने क्लास
Now it's
सिखाया
how to read and all that.
teaching
No, no.
and it was very
Basically,
One
good.
second.
Somebody shared in group.
CN where I studied and many others might have known. CN, which is
CN Vidyalaya.
Gujarati medium
Huh,
school
huh.
in those days,
Huh.
which is very well good
Yeah.
name in. So they had a lot of crafts related subject.
Yeah.
Like we had agriculture,
हाँ
then we had a spinning wheel,
yeah
then there is a carpentry work. So those things were there.
Yes.
But the parents used to resist that why you are making our children do manual work,
Yes.
menial work
menial and manual.
and that's
So I
yeah.
think, but there was they have 40 acres campus,
Very nice.
which is equivalent to IIMA campus, and there is
I am 100 acres.
okay now.
पहले
103
I think
So
what
doesn't
I'm
matter.
saying, see, it doesn't matter.
I
What
did,
I'm
yeah.
saying is that they have a land, so they had a small patches of
Such activities, yeah.
farm, so that you can students can do some
Chota-mota
growing
activity.
up
even
agriculture,
हाँ एकलव्य does it,
plants,
yeah yeah
वगैरह.
our
So they
kids
can
love
see
that.
what is.
yeah
My
and
kids went to Eklavya. they
you're not
love
connected
that
to the
school.
earth, right? Yeah.
So,
So
what is
it is-
agriculture,
It's a
they will
global
understand
system.
how the food is produced. how
Now
the
there's no
food-
appreciation for
So
anyone.
there is no appreciation for that, gardening, everything.
तो life skills नहीं है, तो even cooking नहीं आता है. So when they work for
But
live by
it is
themselves.
not just this.
हाँ.
I think we are. This is again a sort of this whole discussion is very frankly is being hijacked.
हाँ.
The education model that we had in India earlier,
Yeah.
Gurukul.
The Gurukul.
and what Macaulay came up with also
Yeah.
was principally meant for elites and about 5% of the Indian education.
Okay.
Now, if everybody is to be given to that kind of plot of land,
Yeah.
we have that land.
It's not
And if
enough
we
land.
are not- Second, all the kind of skills that we talk about, like what you said, can you take an exam on that? Because our entire education system, so the parents insist, my child should stand
My
first in the
child.
class. If the child has to stand first in the class, it means there has to be an examination. Now, can you have an examination for floor mopping?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And it teaches to the test and the.
तू लेके आना हर वक्त ग्रुप में बोलते रहता है कि come out with a
You know-
concrete plan of action, you come out with a plan of action.
So we have on
Simple, yeah.
campus, we
You
have
can-
exchange student coming every year
Huh.
from Europe, mainly I'm talking about Europe. You see how they handle themselves. They are doing so well. They do multitasking compared to our native student. Our native students are माँ राज को पानी देती है हाथ में खाना till they come to the hostel, so they are not able to manage.
Yeah.
So they are so much obsessed with the study. And these people are multitasker. They are doing this, they are traveling, They are doing sightseeing, they do
Can I-
gym, they do yoga.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not finished.
Please,
We
please.
have a full problem.
Yeah.
See, the problem is that in India, the entire responsibility for education has devolved on the government. I blame the government to start with. It's not merely that. It's the government which is to be blamed if there is a person of blame. And wherever this idea that this whole thing is the business of the government,
Yeah.
that country, and is that point which the way the country starts to falter,
Yeah.
which is precisely what you find in the US of A, which this mess that the American system is in is also because of Obama's no child left behind
Yeah.
policy.
Agreed.
You at a point
Because
you
you've
say
now had to
that
lower
what we call
standards.
The 3 hours, not
Yeah.
the 4.
Agreed,
4 is-
agreed.
The 3 hours. The moment the 3 hours are over, the responsibility of the state should be over.
Yes.
Thereafter, it should be
Minimal, yeah, exactly. Minimal education, yeah.
So long as you come out and say, just like today there is somebody put on the Facebook that kid, instead of going, Kumbh Mela, we should have gone to laboratories, since we did not. Therefore, there is only one Nobel Prize winner in India in so many years.
Okay.
Now, is this the business of the government
Yeah.
to produce Nobel Prize winners? Is a factory possible?
Yeah.
Even the Chinese have not built that kind of factory, and the factory that is there in UK and USA is not really. It is funded by government, not built by government.
Yeah. Agreed.
So this what you say, the social spiritual. If the parents are not teaching the people, their kids, like spiritual, all the in fact the social and spiritual are two skills which can only be learned by observation.
Yes. Not in a
Nor
classroom.
can they be subjected to examination.
Yes.
Therefore, we should not bother so much in saying कि ये स्कूल में आज नहीं हो रहा है.
हाँ.
And secondly, even if you want to inculcate, it will take at least 7 years.
Yeah.
We are talking of too short a time span
Yes.
and demanding results from the government, which government is in basically, conceptually, structurally is in no position to deliver.
One, it's not their job, and two, even if
They don't have the means
Yeah.
to do it, they don't have the people to do it. Anybody like today, I give an example, because my father was also the education secretary to the government of Gujarat. Once we were having a discussion when he was the secretary, I said कि तुमने आज एक फतवा निकाला education का. That fatwa will translate and go to the to the teacher, because finally when the teacher has done something, then something gets done.
huh.
So when finally it gets down to the level of the teacher and you see a result, by that time you will not be in this chair. So the guy who is sitting in your chair 2 years from now, he has no idea why this was being done.
Huh.
So where is the question of correction?
So he also come out with a new fatwa.
They do that. They
How
do
do you,
that.
my question is, how do you support the parents? Because what is emerging is that the parents are not doing what they can do or possibly would even like to do.
Yeah.
Schools are underprepared. Colleges, by the time the child reaches the
Too late,
college,
yeah.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff is happening. So, based on your experience, if you would say what can you help parents to do, what would you say?
I think each of these skills, right? If you look at social skills, educating the parents that just book smarts is not enough. We should encourage kids to do sports. We should encourage them to do arts, because you learn so much about social skills, how to organize together, how to create something from those activities, that the parents that are only optimized for grades, marks, they lose out on that. And the children will never get that opportunity to learn those skills later in life, because later in life there's no time, right? So parents can definitely learn that. The other is the old formula of sending kids through engineering and MBA. Where does that work anymore? It does not. Parents have to understand that finding passion is more important for your kid, and learning to learn is more important than trying the old path. How many kids are doing engineering and now they have to do masters? My own daughter is having to do that, right? Because engineering is no longer the sure shot way to success. So how do you guide your kids? All the formulas that we knew, they don't work anymore. It used to be engineering kar lo, MBA kar lo, ho gaya, you're all set for life. It doesn't work that way. But kids need to find passion. They need to learn to learn.
Is there a structured way to find passion according to
Yeah. I teach my course, you ask my students, they come out. The whole point is you have to do things, put yourself into an uncomfortable spot, and then you learn something from it, and that capacity for reflection is very important. Right? In my class, for example, I ask the students, in class instruction, jo bhi rahega, you go home and you write me a one-page note on how it changed you. I'm not asking for you to write down what I said in the class, because for your information, I know what I said. So if you report back to me what I said, I already know that. Right? I want you to reflect on it. Why? Because I want to build that capacity that they have of reflection. Because only then they will know, ye chalta hai mere ko, ye nahi chalta. I liked doing this, I did not like this. Right? Or I want to investigate this further. Because that space they have not created.
I would like to know how you inculcate this sense of wonder, or asking them how life is changing them, because I feel that kids don't even know how to articulate.
Yeah.
Why you have to sense? See, something you have to sense that something will happen to you.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
Then comes the question of articulation and any way it's given. So how do you do that? Because I have also been trying the same thing. Failed miserably.
I begin with the same rhetorical question I asked him, which is, how are you doing? In my first class, every time I teach, how are you doing? And obviously the answer is I'm fine. I'm doing fine, thank you. Then I say, okay, I want you to go back and think about the question, not the answer. I want you to know how you will know how you're doing. Right? Because it turns out you don't know how you're doing. Because you don't know the first thing about finding out how you're doing. What is me? What am I doing? How am I doing? Where am I feeling the feeling that I should be feeling? Right? You don't know that, and that's why you're giving me a stock answer. Right? But I want you to think about that, because only when you feel that sensation can you feel that sensation in the things that you're doing. I enjoyed this. I said, the next thing I asked them is this: you meet someone and then you send an email, your first line is, oh dear Rajiv, it was a pleasure to meet you. I said, okay, hold this right there. You tell me, in meeting me, are you experiencing something? Do you truly feel pleasure in seeing me? For that, you have to have the capacity to feel pleasure. Do you have the capacity to feel pleasure? Rasa, वो आनंद की अनुभूति जिसको कहते हैं, तो rasa, where do you feel that pleasure? Because until you can sense that, you're only saying things that you think other people are saying. Right? But when you say it was a pleasure to meet you, you have to feel that pleasure first. You have to build the capacity to feel that pleasure, because then you can chase it.
I have a point response to that. Is that the dopamine levels that we had in our brain to respond to experiencing pleasure?
Yeah.
And do you see those dopaminergic circuits in these children to be different?
They need to be rewired, they're different, but they need to be rewired. The kids come to me saying, I have no attention span. I have done 6-hour workshops with kids. They have sat in my
I'm not talking attention, I'm talking about responding to the sense
The pleasure,
of pleasure.
Yeah.
Because so much pleasure has already been achieved so
No,
early in life.
they live in a hedonistic thing where everything is pleasure, and therefore
They've experienced everything that we took maybe 40 years to experience, they experienced at 14.
सब कर दिया उन्होंने.
Even sex, even alcohol, even like adventure sports, their parents have experienced them too. Not parents, but they just
have
the
that access to
opportunity
that,
do it virtually or experience it, and virtual is as real as real.
Yeah.
So how do you help rewiring that?
So first is to understand what that source of joy is. So I meet kids, so I teach them meditation. They come to my class. Imagine, your kids. Can you imagine an 18-year-old kid starting at 6:30 in the night and sitting in the class till 10:30? My kids sit for 4.5 hours in my class till 11:30. They're with me, right? Not one kid says they want to go back. And note after note, every class I teach, I'll show you the dear professor notes at this with me, right? They'll go back and they'll tell their roommate, आज बहुत मजा आया. And the question is, मजा क्यों आया? Right? Have you figured out what it means to truly feel that pleasure in just conversation? हम कुछ कर थोड़ी नहीं, we're talking. But are you enjoying it? How did you come to enjoy this? What does that enjoyment mean? Where do you experience that enjoyment? That's what I want them to develop, because वो taste नहीं है अभी हमारे पास. We only have this highs wala thing. We become immune to the smaller sense of the ever running current of joy that we have inside. That's what I want them to learn. Yes, sir.
So, you talked about that parents need to encourage their children about finding their passion and whatever they like and encouraging them to pursue maybe later on in their life as their career. But I have encountered that there are a lot of social pressures, there are other forces which overpower their own passion or their own will to go ahead in their life. And that state is sometimes create a conflict inside them. Okay, on one hand I have pressures from social factors and other cultural factors, and on the other hand I have my interest and passion to do. How do we as educators or parents or as elders need to help them in navigating those conflicts and reaching something meaningful in their life?
एक तो ये कि सोशल प्रेशर हम इसलिए बिकॉज हमें एक ही टाइप की कहानी सुनाई पड़ती है, फलाना सक्सेसफुल है. वी यूज्ड टू हैव वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग रिपोजिटरी ऑफ स्टोरीज इन आवर ट्रेडिशन. इंडियन में है हम लोग, इतनी स्टोरीज है हमारे पास, राइट? और पीपल हु हैव गॉन थ्रू 12 years of hell, 13 years of hell, राइट? तो हमारी तो एपिक्स की कहानी है ये. People who have gone through terrible times to come out victorious on the other hand. Those stories we don't tell our children. तो उनको सिर्फ सक्सेस स्टोरीज पता रहती है कि फलाना वो बिलियनर हो गया ना, वो बिलियनर होने के बाद उसका दिमाग खराब हो गया, इफ दे यू नो दे हैव लॉस्ट देयर विल फॉर लाइफ, वो सब नहीं पता चलता हमें. ऑल वी नो इज मनी इक्वल टू सक्सेस. बट वी हैव सो मेनी अदर स्टोरीज इन आवर ट्रेडिशन. ऑल ऑफ दोज आर पार्ट ऑफ आवर इनहेरिटेंस. वो उनको सुनाओ ना कहानी. वी डोंट टेल देम दैट कहानी बिकॉज वी हैव आउटसोर्स्ड आवर स्टोरी टेलिंग टू हॉलीवुड. उनके यहाँ तो एलियंस आते हैं, कुछ करके चले जाते हैं, राइट? वी डोंट रियली हैव अ गुड
The
सेंस.
definition of joy, sensibilities are not developed.
हाँ.
They, for example, if they are staying in a residential complex as a garden, they are not curious about which are the plants,
क्या
which
है?
are the flowers. So कुछ पूछते नहीं है कि ये क्या है. They are, it's just the things around them.
कुछ हो रहा है. हाँ.
हाँ. So they are not sensitive, and they are not sensitized by the parents
हाँ.
or whatever it is.
What I
Because
tell
of the pressure.
So
So
what
definition of joy also is different.
it is, I agree. So what I tell the kids is this is my thing कि मजा लोगे तो मजा आएगा. So you have to learn to take joy in things and then joy will come. And the example I have
But
is
the
look,
joy is in food. Joy is
in everything. आप लेकिन मजे लेके मजा लोगे तो मजा आएगा.
That universe of joy which is there, which is very small for them, that has to be expanded.
Yes.
So that is not expanded by parents.
No, parents के ठीक है, उन्होंने वो
Parents
बेचारे कमा रहे थे, ठीक है, but parents.
There has to be an awareness.
हाँ.
वही ना, awareness
Everything
not
is
there.
taken for granted.
हाँ.
Then if there is no awareness, you cannot
Correct.
see the miracle.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
So sensitivization is not there.
Yeah. तो मैं बोलता हूँ, for example, I don't follow cricket. तो मेरे को enjoy. So अगर वो इंडिया पाकिस्तान मैच हुआ and India won, I get zero joy out of it because I'm not following it, right? But those that are following it get a lot of joy out of it. And so my example is आप मज़ा लोगे किसी भी चीज़ में तो अपने आप मज़ा आएगा. आपने मज़ा लेना नहीं सीखा है. You talk to someone who's enjoying the thing and you ask them why they're enjoying it, right? YouTube पे कितने videos होते हैं कि इसमें ऐसे होता है. Then you get to learn the craft. इसमें ये nuances. Oh, this is the reason. This is interesting. Now I'll take interest. Interest लोगे तो interest मिलेगा, right? But हमने सिखाया नहीं किसी को इंटरेस्ट लेना. We just say the only thing to be interested in is marks लाओ, पैसे कमाओ.
What if, like, I build on argument that मेरा joy could be different from somebody else's joy, right?
So but expand.
If I am authoritative as a parent, suppose I have a kid, उसका joy is in gaming or in something else. मेरा joy वहाँ पे नहीं, उसका joy cricket में है, but my joy is not in cricket. And if this clash between, I am just overpowering him or her.
Yeah.
That is useless.
So in the 4 things I teach in the class, the first thing it says, be interested, be prepared, be natural. Be interesting is simply you have to be taking interest in a whole bunch of different things. Because आपकी conversation करने की कला आनी चाहिए आपको. But वो कला, because I say the example I give is 2012 में I came to recruit at this campus and 130 students applied, and me and my colleague, we were maverick type के लोग थे. So we said, look, we don't want to hire based on resume or GPA करके shortlist. ऐसे ही बकवास है. I want to see these people. So I told the placement committee guy, भाई सबको ले आओ. 2 मिनट के लिए सबको ले आओ, and then we'll talk to them, and then we'll call back. We'll do a full interview. चिंता मत करो. And in those 2 minutes, we asked them, okay, tell us about yourself. What are the things that you're interested in? Because what am I looking for? ये बंदे के पास, what do they find joy in? इसको enthusiasm किस चीज़ के बारे में? Because if they are enthusiastic and passionate, I know how to twist passion to my work. But कुछ तो passion होना चाहिए ना? And लोग आए बुझे. Oh sir, I'm interested in cricket and movies. Cricket and movies में आप खुद क्या, आप खेलते हो तो बताओ, मूवी बनाते हो तो बताओ, देखते में ठीक है, we said अच्छा ठीक है, you're interested in cricket, ठीक है, क्या चल रहा है क्रिकेट में? What is the energy level that you have to? If you're not interesting, then people don't want to talk to you. You're very kind to have host me here, but if I was boring, आप पहली बार के बाद मुकर जाते थे ना. You're like अरे ठीक है यार हो गया, अभी एक बार as a favor कर दिया, रोज नहीं बुला रहे, right? The point is you have to curate a personality which is interesting. Same to same सब होंगे तो क्या interesting रहेगा? And then जो आप कह रहे थे, be interested. अगले को इस चीज में मजा आ रहा है, you ask them, you want to teach values based education. What does that mean? क्या कर रहे हो? आप चाव लेके मुझे बताओगे, मैंने कुछ नई चीज सीखी. I've shared a little bit of your joy. What's not to like? तो वो जो simple वो processes है वो हमने सीखी नहीं है. I think that's what I think is the big challenge that we have as a civilization and in general. I think blaming the education system or parents or government is not enough. Because everyone has a role to play. I think the bigger problem is we don't have an awareness of these literacies. We think that 3 hours आ गए, सब हो गया, degree मिल गई, and success is guaranteed.
डिग्री मिल गई, जॉब मिल गई, उसके बाद की बात बाद में.
बाकी देख लेना.
फिर शादी कर ली, उसके बाद की बात बाद.
देख लेना. So that's it. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. Come.
Okay.